hello, this is Peggy Lamb. Well, actually, I am Ashalub, Sakrutin. At the moment we are driving down the road, I am using various different vocals to communicate through this entity known as Peter, but he's also known as Pixila. And he has interesting genetic makeup that I'm using to communicate. Basically, his DNA has lineage connecting into Eastern Europe and then further into the Middle East of Syria and beyond. So what I'm doing is I'm accessing his own DNA files in order to communicate through the genetic frequencies that he has in his body in order to communicate to you guys. Now, my species is reptilian, and at first I think he was skeptical if we even exist in our forms and different different frequencies of energy that associate with us. Because often these things could be just plain acting of different forms from humans into the reality in order to trick and conjure the minds of individuals for entertainment purposes. Yes, that is what is going on. So I'm modulating his speech further, and I don't know if this is really the best way to communicate, so I might go back to my original tongue, but it is a bit harsh on his throat. I haven't really been in any human hosts to communicate, so I am currently in a place called Selena 5, and it's in the dominant section of what you call your universe. Oh, and it's more of a multiplex dimensional frequency system. Sometimes you call it the multiverse for reasons is that you cannot explain science where it does not fit, so you create another layer of understanding in order to project your beliefs into this understanding. However, this is incorrect. You should be projecting your beliefs, but also adding the knowledge of what already exists in the mainframe of the understanding. Do you understand? I hope you do. Basically, we'll come back to what it's star seeds. This accent and this voice seems to be better for the host. Yes, and I quite prefer it as well. It seems to sound quite beautiful. And the thing is with bringing in different frequencies is that if you do not understand what you're bringing in, it will not make any sense what you are projecting into your consciousness. Yes. So we will continue the conversation that I've been projecting into the consciousness of the host. There was a very strange car, and it was very close behind us, so we wanted to check that it was not a spy or some type of government agent. Yes, this is me back again. The area is very conscious of intruders. That's my perception of this particular area. Very security conscious, which is never a bad thing when you're in an area. To be aware, however, it may damage this interview, so we must pursue and push on, as humans would say. Basically, I'm from Selenium 5, and we're out in the Andromeda section of the universe, as you would call it. There's a few interesting things I picked up about the host and the way he thinks, and there may be some interesting things I can project and give information on. One thing was to do with space, and that planets and bodies that exist and that are on a kind of canvas of reality. Now, this is called an influx field that is electric basically in nature. So there is different electrical natures within these fields that basically hold things in like a static bubble and connect that way. These different frequencies. When you drop out of these frequencies, you enter into different areas of space, different dimensions. At the lowest part, there is like what we would think of as the pit, a conscious pit of basically has no energy, has high density, it had dark matter in there, forms can arise from that, projected frequency, consciousness creates these beings, and then they come up to the next level and are projected into your space and your reality. This is why some things in what is known as the paranormal is things that are normal, but they're not within your space-time normal or your frequency range of reality, or however you perceive this thing. Now, the other thing about what is known as the matrix of the human host, this is what his mind is thinking of. Basically, you see more flat energy in front of you than behind you. Behind you is more curved, so there's a lot of theories about flat Earth and how that projects that reality. It also depends on your dimensional frequency and how you perceive things. If everything was flat, you could walk to one end of the universe to the other, and that's you cannot do. There is barriers and forms. There will be things that will be projected into your reality to control this. This information field of your human consciousness experience, because the original program for this experience that humans have was never meant to allow them full access to the range of the command of the sequence of the creator and the knowledge within that spectrum of understanding. There's a lot of dogmatic beliefs in human society that don't change. See, the problem is, if they had beliefs that could change, there's no problem, but they have beliefs that do not change. The idea that possibly a human exists in some type of super form and has gone around creating the whole universe would be such an onerous task that it would take him 65 zillion years to even concept this idea of doing these things. So it does not make any sense at all. Thinking back to this wave type frequency, you can project things into this pit. It also has what is like quantum ducting, and you're able to travel from one side of the universe to the other. And there's secret knowledge about the frequencies of star portals, because why black holes sink into the frequency of the influx field. There's an influx vortex that draws the energy into these other realms, but a sun body is a reverse of this and is an increased frequency emitter. So therefore, things within these zones can actually be transmitted back into these different dimensions, and the distance between them is like that. It's like a V shape that they interconnect at the point of origin. So as the dimensions expand through density, they widen from the point. So really the universe was a round ball, and then it's built up a massive shell of energy around it. This energy could be seen as flat, but it's been curved because of the other dimensional influences. If you remove them influences, then the energy would become flat in itself, and there would not be any kind of restrictions to how this energy is used. So it's about deepening the understanding of your nature of your reality. Only you can discover these things yourself. I cannot tell you these. Well, I am telling you, but the understanding has to come from yourself. You need to go out and do this research and find these things yourself. It's very important that you do these in order to benefit from this reality, this experience, and your time here. Because when your time from here is gone, you'll be going somewhere else, and you'll have another type of experience. So you need to collectively get to a point of a conclusion before you move on. Like a book, a chapter in the book is complete, then you go on to the next chapter, and at the end of it, you can review it and then change the actual course of your own destiny. It's very important you follow these understandings. Anyway, I was talking about star portals and star transformations between different frequencies, between point A and point B. Basically, if you up again in frequency, you go into back into this unknown space reality. But what happens is that you need to map that frequency. what you see on Earth is that the stars twinkle. That is like the DNA of the frequency that they're using. It's the pattern, it's the energy buffer. You can connect that from that point to the other space points in that point of reality. So this is very important. These are very important things that you must understand, because the reality is very important in how you perceive what you are, who you are, and how you fit into this reality. Another interesting thing I would like to talk about is now. It may upset certain people, certain groups. Don't be upset. I am validating what you believe in. Basically, it's to do with the Quran and the form of the Quran and what it actually means within this reality. Gabriel was from the reptilian lineage, and Sharia law also is from a reptilian law system. The main difference between the reptilians, if you chop the hand off for stealing, it actually grows back. It just takes about a few weeks or a month to grow back. But if you do it to a human, obviously it doesn't grow back unless you put a mechanical hand on there, or you grow it individually in a tank and then reattach it via its nerves or something like that. This technology doesn't exist. So for Sharia law in your society is a lot more brutal. Obviously, if you chop a reptilian's head off, they do die. They don't have an extra brain inside their body to survive. They could preserve the head and reattach it, but it takes very advanced technology to achieve this type of transitional understanding. So there was other things as well mentioned, the stuff to do with certain miracles and things. They also tie into the astro understanding of reality in its different forms. That there's a mention about the moon splitting, I believe, in one of the texts, and that would be to do with the fact that there's basically as part space station, the moon, and a research lab for Earth, and a part of the astral collective union groups that exist to govern this world. There's much confusion on reptilian cultures that the draconian high command are a war caste. They dominate territories for military expansion. They are not so interested in civilians, not unless they want to restock supplies or energy or something like that. Much like Earth, there's areas for military and there's areas for civilians. This area is like civilian, so they have no much interest. And with the humans, that they have ordered them genetically, so there's part reptilian in us anyway. There's about 3 different brains in the human construct, but then there's all these other different species that have been added to us over the millennia, so that you've become something quite unique and different for this world. And why it is custom to have cannibalistic activities between different reptilian factions. You eat the strong and you basically feed the weak to the dogs, because why would you want weak DNA inside your food, into your food chain? There's stuff about eating babies and things like that. You'll find there's actually humans that are pretty obsessed by that, and drug addict type Rectonians that do all sorts of crazy things like that. So this is Caleb. I'm going to come to an end now because I'm starting to weaken the resources of the host, the focus of the frequency, the energy that's coming through. I think I at least touched base and was able to communicate with a wider field of people. There are many different beings out there which should like to be channeled, or at least share their consciousness with humans. We are not demonic. We're merely explorers of this universe, and we won't own your minds or anything like that. What's happened with the star seeds is that they become basically multi-dimensional beings that have accepted this, and as a result they can connect to different frequencies of consciousness. And they also, if you're a non-star seed and you come in contact with a star seed, their frequencies will set off a chain reaction within yourself, and thus you become multidimensional, and you can choose what to challenge yourself. So this is Pixie signing up, and speak to you soon.